Hey everybody, Christian from Treasure Town here. Today we are going to be launching into the first video of the year with 7 ways that coin collecting is changing in 2026 and some key trends and themes that I want to highlight. So hope you are having a happy new year and excited to get into some of these details. So this perspective is going to be coming as somebody who is both collecting a fair amount and also dealing. I kind of do both at the same time, and I think that gives me a unique perspective on some of what's been going on, particularly in the last 6 months or so. And the first key theme that you probably are aware of is the crazy movement in gold and silver. For me, it's most important on the silver side, but I think that has a lot of ramifications, not only in the types of coins that I'm collecting and dealing in, which are mostly world and ancients, but also in the US coin market, which is where I started collecting and growing. And so I think the biggest thing that shifts around in this current environment is that it's a lot more challenging for both people to sell at what they think is a fair market price, but also just challenging to go and build a set. So no longer are the days where you can spend 15 bucks and get a bunch of Morgans to start your date set, Morgan silver dollars being from 1878 to 1921, or peace dollars from 1921 to 1935. The goalposts have moved. When silver is hovering around 80 bucks, those Morgan silver dollars can be melted for $58. And so you have a situation where coin dealers are able to melt their coins and get more money than they can selling them often to the public, or they'll have to come in with big premiums. So traditionally, when silver prices go up, you're going to see silver premiums shrink in terms of the numismatic premium that people are paying. But in a world where people are either going to have to hold inventory after they've purchased a collection of Morgan dollars, which most dealers don't want to do, and they certainly don't want to do it when silver is 4 times expensive as it was a few years ago, they're either going to have to sell it to a big aggregator. So there's a lot of non-refinery big coin companies that are going to have like a buy list, and they'll say, hey, we'll buy all of your Morgan dollars at $1 over spot, because they have some clients that they can sell them in bags of 500 to for say $3 or $4 over spot and make a little over $1,000 a bag. Or they may end up actually sending them to refineries. So gone are the days, and I think it'll be a trend I'll discuss more, where you can then get on a platform like Whatnot or put it on eBay, because you're going to have to ask so much more than the silver price. It's not like, hey, you have a $30 Morgan, 30 bucks of silver in a Morgan, maybe you ask $44.99 on eBay. Now, when it's 60, you have to ask so much more that both the coins are much more expensive and collectors are a little more hesitant to pay the premiums needed to justify buying them on a platform where the seller is also paying fees. So I think that ultimately, I used to, and a second key trend that we'll discuss in a moment, but I used to go on something like, basically have relationships with European dealers. They would send me a bunch of silver. I might buy $10,000 of Morgan dollar sized foreign coins from the 1800s and pay really close to silver. But now there's just not that availability on my end. They don't want to go through the trouble because they can just melt it. Plus, we'll get into number 2, which is the existence of both a lot more information out there, but 3 is that the tariff situation complicates shipping quite a bit. So on number 2, I feel like it's really exciting for there to be so much more discovery across a bunch of different areas of numismatics. Again, I'm biased to world and ancient coins, and I'm kind of talking my book here, but I think that for a long time there's been all these barriers in terms of understanding just what it is that you're collecting. And now it's very easy to go online and understand what rare Roman province some ancient coin was from, or figure out, in this Southeast Asian small nation, what were the different kingdoms and dynasties. There's so much more digitization, but then also discussion around these things. Great communities are being built across traditional coin forums, but also places like eBay Live, Whatnot. I haven't even tried eBay Live. I'm hoping to do that for 2026. And so I think that, just how much people know about what they can collect, and kind of the scholarly, academic, and kind of mixed kind of dealer plus scholar just research and understanding is growing exponentially. So there's not the sort of thing where, okay, there's no auction archives and you have people selling Roman coins in really common condition or really low condition and common emperors for $75, $100 saying, hey, it's a piece of Constantine, when, I might be selling that in a slab for 30 bucks or 35 in an auction and it's got decent eye appeal. You know, there's really a lot of differential there. And then I think on the tariff picture, there's not a statement on tariffs themselves. I just want to make that clear, but it's a different world when, okay, some FedEx always charges generally 15% for European coins. It's based off of the mint that produced the coin. So say I'm buying a coin that was Roman, but it was struck in the United Kingdom. That would count as a United Kingdom coin, not an Italian coin, because where was it struck, that gets tariffed at 10% instead of, say, one with a French mint, and that then gets tariffed at 15%. So I think the biggest place where it's challenged me is on the world silver, because having those tariffs layer in is really challenging. Now, there are exemptions for coins, but again, FedEx does not properly process them. UPS is very hit or miss. Generally will tariff me. DHL, you know, sometimes you get tariffs, but if it's properly declared, I've often had luck with, you know, getting the brokerage fee, which maybe it's 60, 70 bucks to import a package, but then there's not that 10 or 15% layered in. Again, these are coins that should be exempt under 9705. So the challenge there is that it can be annoying to then buy internationally, because if you're a collector who's going to have to pay 30 bucks for shipping, and then all of a sudden you're paying another $15 tariff and maybe a processing or brokerage fee, you know, that can get out of hand pretty quickly in terms of how much, you know, you're having to spend. And it can favor a dealer like myself, who in those dealing situations is going to be purely buying a mix of coins for resale, and they can kind of absorb some of these fees a little bit easier in terms of they're not, the effective shipping cost if they're buying 200 coins, right, is not $40. It's, you know, a couple of cents, you know, 20, the math, 20 cents, I think. So that's another key trend, both on the information advantage and the tariffs. I'd also call out that from what I see, younger collectors, there's not as much of a blueprint initially for collecting. Now, this might be different for, say, 9 and under collectors, but I see a lot of young collectors who are specializing way beyond like what I did, which was putting together mint folders of different dates and mint marks of only US coins. Again, the information out there, there's so much about world coins, ancient coins, metals, tokens, exonumia. And then I also think that in general, there's a trend away from sort of buying tons and going as big as you can. And there's a little more easy access to nicer coins today. I think a lot of that is driven by something I'll talk about later, why not make it the next point, where you see people kind of collecting a little bit better quality and a little lower quantity. So that's always been a recommendation of mine, at least beyond the initial stage. Like, I think it's good, say you want to spend $3,000 a year collecting coins. There's different ways to approach it. I wouldn't buy $3,001 coins. I might, you know, the first $200, $300, $400, it could be fun to get kind of a wide mix and just get your hands on a bunch of nice items that are at real collector prices. You know, a cool medieval or Islamic coin for 20 bucks. You know, that's really interesting. But I think as you go along, you do want to then shift in and rotate towards quality. And so I definitely have seen that be the case in terms of people, you know, what they're tracking down. Beyond that initial stage, I think trying to go for quality and then also rarity has certainly been something that I've seen a lot more interest in provenance in terms of, hey, did this come from an old collection? You know, what's the collecting history of this item? All things that I've certainly been seeing as something for 2026. I mentioned it earlier, but the Whatnot and basically new auction platforms, eBay Live, just the liquidity in the market for traditionally challenging to sell items is really incredible. And it's pushed up prices, in my opinion, quite a bit, because now you can take a big collection and instead of, you know, having to work them up in flips that you then sell in a show over time and it takes a long time, or similarly, you know, individually upload those onto eBay. However efficient you can do it, it's a lot easier to go and sell 2, 3, 4, 500 coins in a single night, even without, we try to ID stuff, but with just a coin on screen, dollar start auction format. And if you're giving people pretty good deals, you know, you might be losing on some of the things that you would dollar start, but then also that's going to attract, because people know there are deals, enough buyers where it kind of supports prices. So it's really cool. I mean, and that easy access. If I upload a coin that I would sell on Whatnot at $1 start and it might sell for $13, $14, to make it worth the time to put that on eBay, it's got to be $30, $35. So I think that that's just awesome in terms of how easy it is to now access great coins for collectors, and is exciting certainly to see that and understand that's just kind of a reality of world and ancient and US to some extent. But I think especially on those less liquid coins, that's a big trend. And then another side of the first point, which is about silver prices going so high, is that when silver prices are high and a Morgan dollar is $65 to buy, that means that a lot of other coins, I'm thinking widow's mites, I'm thinking base metal 1800s European and world copper coins. I'm thinking, could be a silver denarius. There's maybe $5 of silver in a silver denarius. So all of a sudden, when a Morgan dollar is 65 and a denarius might be $50, it's a lot different from, hey, I can complete my three, a PDS set of Morgans for $50 or a denarius. And so I think some of the opportunities in coins where there's going to be less of that precious metal exposure, those are definitely being brought to the forefront. I think a fantastic trend, and I've seen some awesome, like premier rare coins. I just see all these great YouTubers popping up. An online community is really stronger than it's ever been. It's so easy to start collecting and discuss with a bunch of people, learn, again, that digitization is not just good for, hey, where are the auction archives prices on these coins so I don't get ripped off, but just having the whole point of collecting, I think, is often to be social with it, understand and appreciate these fantastic historical objects. Or, on the other side, get excited about silver and gold with other people that want to do it. So that ends up being something that's just continuing, shows, maybe they're slowing down in some places, but a lot of them, from what I've heard, are really hot. People are just enjoying it. And I think also the ease of these platforms like a Whatnot and eBay Live, all across the board with live selling, you have that community aspect when you're selling, and it makes it really easy for somebody like me, who's prior a collector, to go pick up some of that dealing component in a social way, but then also that added liquidity means that there's going to be a lot more support for prices. People want to buy coins, and then they also are more likely to understand that they might just be owning it for a period of time. So something that might have stayed in the collection because there was no good way to get rid of it, or get more money to buy other coins. When your collecting interests have grown, collecting budget has expanded, people are able to go and sell themselves. So you have, instead of being a hobby, where you only see the coins in your collection and sometimes go to a show, all of a sudden you're learning so much more because coins are flowing through the door, they're going out the door, and you're kind of getting your collecting objectives underway. So I'm super excited. Hopefully this has been an interesting mix of key trends for 2026. I don't think these are going to reverse much, with the exception of I don't predict silver and gold prices. So I wouldn't mind if they come down a little bit. It might make acquiring some material easier, but I also don't want to complain if some of the silver coin values in my inventory and collection have now increased. So kind of not too pressed on either side of the coin, no pun intended. So anyways, have a great new year, 2026 trends. Curious about your thoughts, would love to hear in the comments.
Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to head on over to treasuretown.com and sign up for our email list to stay up to date on everything that's happening, whether it's auction updates, exciting new inventory drops, coin collecting news, or general informational resources. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on another one.